As you sit on your chair listening to me speak, you are moving at a speed of 67,000 miles per hour, around 18.6 miles per second. Of course, you don't really feel it, because just like sitting in a moving car speeding at a constant velocity, the environment around you is moving along with you, making everything seem still relative to your point of view. But what exactly is the cause behind this high speed? The answer lies in orbital motion. As many of you may know, the Earth is orbiting or moving around the Sun, and we even have plenty of orbiters of our own, like our moon, satellites, and even the International Space Station. In today's video, to get a better understanding of the physics behind orbits, we're going to be exploring and simulating this phenomenon on, you guessed it, Scratch, our favorite coding platform. Before we can actually dive in and implement orbital physics, we first have to understand some fundamental physical laws. Thanks to Newton here, we can model most moving objects with four basic properties: position, where the object is in space; velocity, how fast and in what direction the object is moving, often represented with a vector; acceleration, how fast and in what direction the velocity is changing, which is also a vector; and finally, force, which is the physical influence that causes an object to accelerate. Newton, in his second law, also gave us this handy relation between force and acceleration, that being the famous F equals ma, or force equals mass times acceleration. In our case, the driving force behind orbits is gravitational force. For the orbiting body, this force always points toward the central body, because the gravitational force is simply an attraction between two objects. Of course, the central body also feels a force, but typically in a stable orbit, it doesn't budge because it has significantly higher mass compared to the orbiting object. Now, the equation for this gravitational force is given by a constant g times the mass of the moon times the mass of the Earth divided by r squared, where r is the distance between the two. Now, you may be wondering, how are we going to replicate this on an introductory coding platform? It's actually not too complicated. We can use variables to track each one of these four physical properties, one of which Scratch already does for us. And then we can easily get the acceleration from Newton's F equals ma, that being a equals F over m, and all that's left to do is to simulate the acceleration, velocity, and position at any given instant, which we can update in a forever loop. To handle the direction of these vectors, we can simply split it up into x and y components, since we're operating on a 2D plane. So now we know the physics of orbital motion, let's go ahead and create this on Scratch. Alright, so now we're in the Scratch workspace. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create a backdrop, just so our project looks a little nicer. I'm going to create a black square here for the void of the universe, and use the paintbrush tool to dot a few stars over the canvas, just so we can create that extra little detail on our background. I'm going to zoom in a little here, and dot a few around that area. Then I'm going to zoom out and dot a few more on the sides. Just for a bit of fun, I'm going to add a smiley face right here as one of our fictional constellations in our fictional universe. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly delete the Scratch cat because I don't want to get sued by Scratch for allowing their mascot to suffocate in space. Okay, so now I'm just going to go quickly find a Earth sprite that Scratch provides here, and drag it to the center of our screen, and then do the classic when green flag clicked, go to 0, 0. And I'm also just gonna make it slightly smaller so we have more space on our screen to see the orbit. I'm also gonna create our orbiting body as a moon, since the moon is orbiting our Earth. I'm gonna make it gray, and unfortunately it's not gonna be made out of cheese for those of you who think the moon is. Alright, so with that out of the way, we can go ahead and start coding. I'm going to go ahead and drag a when green flag clicked and just make the moon start on the right side of the Earth. You can start it anywhere, but I feel like the right side is just standard. And now let's go ahead and create our variables. The first two we want to create are center X and center Y. That just basically tracks the position of our Earth so that our moon knows where our Earth is at all times, so it knows what it's orbiting around. And let's go ahead and go into the Earth sprite and drag a forever loop just to update those two variables. to the Earth's position at any time. Go back to our moon sprite and create a few more variables. So here we want to create a mass variable for both our Earth and our moon. So our Earth is going to be the center body, so I call that mass center. And our orbiting body is the moon, so I call that mass body. And if you don't know, the Earth and the moon have a mass ratio of 81:1. So that's why I set mass body to 1e6 here, which is 1 million, and mass center to 81e6, which is 81 million. And we'll probably end up changing these later, depending on how our scale of magnitude goes when we implement the physics. And I'm going to do the same thing here for the velocity as well as the acceleration, making x and y versions of those. And we also want a variable to just track that gravitational force that we calculate initially to get the acceleration and velocity. And I also created a variable called r here just to track the radius or the distance between our Earth and our moon. Create one more variable here called g to track our gravitational constant, and I'll set it to 3 at the beginning, but the value is probably going to change just like our mass. For convenience, I'm going to make all of the blocks down here in this space, and then we can put them together once we completed them. For the gravitational force, we're going to use the formula that we saw earlier, which is g m1 m2 over r squared. Our g we already created here with g. And we also created our two mass variables as well, mass center and mass body, so we can just go ahead and multiply those together. And then we want to divide the whole thing by r squared, which we haven't calculated yet, but we can put as a placeholder here for now. Next, let's go ahead and calculate r. So we're going to use the distance formula here between 2 points. It's just the square root of the difference in the x values squared plus the difference in the y values squared. So Scratch has a handy square root block right here. And then we can go ahead and put a plus and 2 multiplies in each of the bubbles for the squared. And in each of those, we want to put the delta between the x coordinates and the y coordinates. So here are the x coordinates. I'm going to duplicate that and put those inside the multiplication bubbles. And do the same thing for y as well. So it's going to be center y minus y position. And duplicate that and put those into the bubbles as well. And there we go. We have our r calculated. Pretty long block of code, but we can just drag that in there, and that's our distance. Now we can drag the gravitational force block right underneath the radius block, because we're going to need that r before we calculate the force. Now since we're working with x and y components, we're also going to need to calculate the angle. The angle between the Earth and Moon, as you see here, is around like 45 degrees. And it's going to change as the moon orbits. We're going to use arctangent to calculate the angle, but we can't use Scratch's default one because that goes from 0 to 180. So we're going to have to create our own block here called atan2, taking in 2 inputs, y and x, to get the full 360 degrees of motion. And how it works is if the x is greater than 0, then we calculate the angle with Scratch's built-in atan function, which is arctan. But if x is less than 0, then we basically have to flip that angle by 180 degrees. So we're just going to add 180 to that. Once we have this handy block, we can go ahead and just use it in our program directly. And that'll just calculate the angle depending on our delta y and our delta x. So I'm going to copy those over from the ones we used in calculating r and just plug those into the bubbles. So with our angle variable, we can calculate the components x and y for acceleration. For acceleration x, it's just going to be our gravitational force, which we calculated earlier, times the cosine of that angle. That's going to get us the x component of the gravitational force. And of course, with F equals ma, we got to divide by the mass of our moon. We can just duplicate that and do the same thing for y, except the cosine is going to become a sine because we're taking the y component now. And with these accelerations, we can calculate the velocity by multiplying the acceleration by the time. Obviously, we need a elapsed time because we're running this in a forever loop, so we got to create a new variable called dt just to track our unit time here. And I'm going to set it to 1/60 because we want this to run at 60 FPS, but you can set it to lower or higher depending on how smooth you want it to be. And for those of you who know a little bit of calculus, yes, this looks like an integral because it is an integral. We're just basically taking the integral of our acceleration, except we're doing it stepwise with dt here. We can also do the same thing with position, changing x by velocity x times dt, and changing y by velocity y times dt. And this is also an integral because position is just the integral of velocity with respect to time. Now we can put the cherry on top with the weight dt at the end, and that's going to be all our code that's going to go inside a big forever loop. And that's it. Looks like here I actually made a typo with the 1/60. Scratch is going to treat that as text, so let's go ahead and fix that with a division block and change that to 1 divided by 60. So you can see here when I run it, the moon is actually falling straight into the earth really fast, and that's because our constants are too strong right now. So let's go ahead and change our mass to 1 and 81, and then change our g value to 1e6. Alright, so I changed those constants, and I also added velocity x and velocity y setter blocks so that we can adjust our initial velocity as well. And now with all that set up, let's go ahead and click play, and you'll see that the moon falls much slower into the earth at a more controlled pace. I'm going to try setting velocity x and velocity y and playing around with it. So that still makes it fall into the earth. I'm going to crank up velocity x a little bit more and also velocity y. And that's a little better. I'm going to go a little higher with velocity y. And let's get it. That formed a solid orbit. I'm just going to take a minute here to admire this masterpiece. You can see here the orbit isn't exactly circular, which is actually normal because orbits aren't supposed to be circular. Although the moon's orbit is pretty circular. You can see here that the Earth is also not in the center, which is expected. Although if we change the initial conditions, I'm sure we can make it go to the center. Now I'm going to do something really crazy. I'm going to add the pen extension to our project just to see if we can track the path of the orbit and visualize that. Alright, so I added pen here, and let's just go ahead and run the program, and there we go. So you see here the path shows up, and it's not quite circular. I'm going to change the color to green just so we can see it a little better. And looks good to me. So we can try to change the path here a little bit by tweaking the initial conditions. I'm going to change vel y to 150, and you can see here the orbit is smaller. And what's cool is when the moon approaches the Earth from the left side, where it's the closest, it moves fastest, which obeys the conservation of angular momentum and Kepler's laws. And that means that we made our orbit physics correctly. Just for a final touch, I'm going to change the pen color inside the loop, and that's going to make our path into a rainbow pattern. Oh yeah, that shade looks good. Just playing around with the numbers a little bit, you'll notice that for some of these starting conditions, the orbit gets really wild. Like that one bounced into the Earth, that one is spinning, and when it hits the edge of the screen, it can't go any further. But in reality, it's still going to come back. So I can play around with the orbit here. Oh, this one's cool. This one comes back slowly, and it's bouncing all over the place. But I think it's going to come back eventually, and yep, it's coming back. Doing loop-de-loop, and going back to the corner. And oh, I think it actually settled in a stable orbit. So now that's going to be just orbiting like that at a slanted degree after going through all of that chaos. What's cool is if you run this enough, you can get some really cool patterns that look kind of like flowers blooming. I'll put some on the screen right now. You might have to run the program for a long time, but the end result is worth it. Like these ones look like, those slinkies you find at arcades, or 1/4 of a macaroni, whatever you want to call it. But overall, with this project and with orbital physics, you can do a lot of things. You can even create your own space simulator if you're up for the challenge. Have like multiple things orbiting, and even 2 things orbiting each other. Those are all cool possibilities. Anyways, that's going to be it for this orbital motion video. Hope you enjoyed watching and learned something today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop a message down below, and I'll get to you as soon as I can. And I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It motivates me to keep making content like this. With all that said, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.